My name is Yogesh Kutkunje Pai, and I'm a technical account manager based out of Bangalore, India. So it's been about 2 years with AWS and GameTech, working with some of the major gaming companies based out of India, and have been working on, game server hosting, databases, analytics, and data science. So along with me, I also have Arun Kumar Lokanatha, who is an AI ML specialist solution architect based in Bangalore. Um, he has been associated with AWS for 2 years and works with various startups across different industry segments. So we both look forward to having an engaging and interactive session with all of you. As far as the agenda goes, we would like to cover how AWS can help you for AI/ML in games. Then post that, we'll talk about some of the common use cases which our customers are solving in gaming with the help of AI/ML on AWS. Then we'll dive deep into some of the common architectures and demo of these architectures by Arun. Uh, we'll have the Q&A towards the end, but in the interim, if you feel that you need to ask a question, please feel free to type them into the Q&A box and we'll try to answer them as they come on. All right, moving on. So AIML is one of the huge trend that we see in tech today, right? And it is no different in the gaming industry. So we have seen that the demand of the games customers to adopt AIML is increasing every day. AIML on AWS provides one of the broadest and deepest set of features for various gaming use cases. AWS is unmatched in the breadth and depth of capability that we offer to the customers. We launched about 250 new features just alone in the last 1 year, right? And our pace is just accelerating, which the developers essentially find that every day they get new capabilities at their fingertips. Secondly, we can accelerate the adoption of AI for you, right? So with about 15 AI services that are accessible to everyday developers, customers can use AI without relying on their own data scientists. At the same time, we also make machine learning and deep learning readily accessible with Amazon SageMaker, although it invariably requires data scientists to pitch in. Thirdly, you get that confidence of building on AWS, right? One of the most comprehensive cloud platforms optimized for machine learning. That's why today we find more and more customers are innovating by enhancing their games and production pipelines with AI. From detecting the fraud and prediction of player behavior to automating speech recognition or play testing, right? AI and ML makes it your games smarter and the development of the games faster. So some of the areas where we see games customers using AI/ML in their games are kind of jotted here. So we'll start with the generative, right? So generative AI has been used to solve unique problems across many industries, right, including games. Given a training set, this technique actually tries to learn and generate new data with the same statistics as that of the training set. For example, the generative adversarial networks, right, abbreviated as GAN, trained on photographs can generate new photographs that more or less look superficially authentic to human observers, having realistic characteristics. Then talking about personalization, personalization uses predictive algorithms that come under the AI domain, right? Which use the data gathered about a player and then predicts what the user's likings will be, what kind of ads that can be targeted to them, right? So with the use of such algorithms, companies can understand the player behavior using various parameters and create model or a framework. Such a model then can be used to recommend what offers or services can be proposed to these players. And such levels of engagement of personalization truly involves a player in the ecosystem and is perceived as a care, right, by gamers. So It could also be leveraged for recommending the quality of the moves, for example, in a card game, right? In the real money world, by using custom models to identify the pattern on the basis of player data. Something else that falls in this category is to predict if a player is going to leave the game, right? That's like the churn prediction. So target them with your personalized recommendation, make so that you can make the game more engaging for them. If it is a free to play game, you could give them some loot drops, or it could be some additional powers in the game, so that they get interested out of it and keep playing longer. In terms of monetization, like with the player data that has been gathered over a period of time, you would like to monetize your game for revenue generation, right? Some of the use cases that we have seen here could be the lifetime value prediction. This could be driven by identifying the total money spent by the user over a period of time, right? In the real money gaming scenario, or if it's a prepaid game, it could be the money that they use to buy the in-game goodies, right? So if the increase in revenue, if it is totally driven by, let's say, new user acquisition, then rather than by retaining the users who continue to spend, and you're putting yourself actually at a risk of experiencing revenue bubble, right? That will burst as the new acquisition slows down. App monetization strategy should be focusing mainly on retaining the high value users, enabling them to spend in your app, more sustainable than a churn and burn model, basically. So tracking LTV can help you get ahead of the unforeseen problems around this. And by looking at the past spending habits of the player, you can, and also, of course, the game data, you can predict how likely a player is, about to spend here, right? That spending trend can be predicted there. In addition to that, you can also target to change the behavior of the player, right? Like having to install their propensity towards certain genre of the game that you want to target. In the next category, that's the voice category. You can use Lex or Alexa to add voice commands to your game, making it more interactive, right? For example, adding features like the ability to use voice commands to control the characters within the game, or easily change the equipment mid battle, etc., right? So you can do that. You can also add automatic translations in game, right? For the multilingual platform, so that the players can extend communicating there across with different geographies. In the next set, the next category on the, like, about making your games more engaging and live with AIML, right? So you can use it to change the game mechanics and build different ways of interacting with the players. This can be done using the RL, Amazon SageMaker reinforcement learning, which basically looks at the samples and learns in real time, right? So here, by using that anomaly detection to detect a group of players or stragglers, as they are referred to, right? And then you can target this group with targeted ads and things like that. Then in addition to that, let's say if you have a game where you want to introduce a bot, right? A non-playing character NPC. So that is something, again, which can be done through this. Moving on, we see that in the QA and in the NPC world, right? Just the one that I mentioned just now, you can use AIML to help with identifying defects or difficulties in the game level design itself. As you know, level design is a very key factor to keep players engaged. If a game is too easy, players are not going to like it, right? And the same way, if the game is too difficult, again, they will fail at it, and then there'll be attrition, right? So here, in order to make that, you can introduce NPCs or the AI bots, which can run through the difficulty of different levels, and help that way to be prepared for your game launch before actually letting it into the market. The last category that I wanted to talk about is community, right? So you can expand your traditional data analytics to include things like, sentiment analysis or, of your chat, right? User chats that is happening in-game chat or the community-based chat. And these can be, moderated using Comprehend. You can tell if the user is actually a positive or negative, or, and you can also run the audit for the inappropriate content, right? For abuse and such. You can also use Amazon Rekognition for the image recognition to moderate your images and video, right? And this will avoid actually the manual identification or the manual moderation which you might be doing currently. All right, moving on. Let's now take a quick poll. You will have 45 seconds to respond to this. So please go ahead and select two options for this question. Okay. On generative AI, as I mentioned earlier, like just getting into the next level of it, right? So some of the specific use cases that you can do using GANs is typically, generate music or the background music. So one of the services that could come in handy here is AWS Deep Composer, right? So Deep Composer actually runs the GAN algorithm using a pre-trained model, or you can have your own model brought in as well. So using both of them, you can, create your background music for your games. Another requirement could be, generating graphics, right? So it could be a graphics based on your player's profile pic, or it could be within the game characters that you want to generate. So, you can do this by using Amazon SageMaker and bring in your own models to do that. All you would need is like a pre-processed image data in a common size that would feed into the model and then gets validated with the discriminator of the GAN until the actual accuracy is met, and it starts looking like the real images. One of the customers to call out here is Latent Space. They use SageMaker's model parallelism feature to perform distributed training for generative 3D. The next use case is around narratives, right? So leveraging Amazon SageMaker, you can generate natural sounding narratives from an ML model trained on English text and statistics relevant to the game. So again, here one of the case studies that we have seen is Fox Sports, right, in the US. They build their natural language generation engine using Amazon SageMaker to enable their broadcasters to engage with the fans with the real-time, game stories, the game statistics of that game in which gets generated in real time. Lastly, for the generation of the characters and designing the complexity of your levels within the games, you can use RL within Amazon SageMaker, and this can help you to make the game more intriguing and engage the players there. Cool. So today's games, we have seen that they need specialized content to increase the retention and drive monetization, right? And also promote feature adoption, basically. No game has a singular player persona, and we know that two players can totally have a different engagement metrics that they would need, right? And styles of play altogether. Be it like indie developers or it could be a AAA developer, both face the same challenge with the design question of how to make the gameplay that fits these evolving personalities, right? And then segment them in the content in such a way that you can keep the players engaged. The specific things could be like the personal preferences or the location, historical behavior, or the current metadata of the games itself, right? So game designers who are familiar with the design theory know that elevating this content only speaks to specific player personas, and it makes it effective to put in the right content for them. This is actually easier said than done, right? So players often do not fall into a specific box. They rather like exhibit multiple personas combined, right? And like this can be something that can be retrieved with by monitoring their interaction with each other or against each other or with the game space itself. So as a result, developers investigate AI/ML solutions that enable them to attain better gameplay metrics based on the cohorts with an increasing interest in the content personalization. So historically, real-time recommendation engines for game users required a deep expertise in data science, right? You had to build, your own models, and you had to have your own infrastructure. So these alone were prohibitive for the developers who did not either have the budget to build these custom models or did not have the skill to manage the infrastructure. So Amazon Personalize could fit in, right into the SQ, right? So it's a managed service with a suite of APIs. It makes it very possible to create customized content and influence player behavior to generate positive sentiment through personalization models. Driven by AI/ML and infrastructure backing of AWS, and of course, years of experience of recommendations used by Amazon.com, you can have an in-game recommendation engine without having to write your own models or manage the training or inference infrastructure. Personalize is a service that delivers a wide array of personalization experience, including specific game recommendations, personalized gameplay re-ranking, right? And also, of course, customized direct marketing. How it works is basically by processing your data, identifying the features, and using the best algorithms, training and optimizing, and of the hosting of the models. Basically. You will receive the results via the API and only pay as you go, right? So there is no minimum fee or any upfront commitments required. So one of the case studies that I wanted to highlight was Sony Interactive Entertainment, right? About their PlayStation Store. So using predictive ML, mainly on Amazon SageMaker for their custom models, and then of course personalize for for their pipeline, they were able to automate the entire pipeline for personalization with to drive like effective personalization for their end customers, right? Which was like a very tedious task before this, because they were managing it on premises. So yeah, this is one of the customer case studies that I wanted to highlight. All right, quick time for the second poll. Again, 45 seconds to answer. Great. Let's move on to the next use case. Traditionally, what we have seen is like the gap that you see between the game developers and the players, right? So that can be bridged only when they can understand each other better. When you build a multiplayer game, it's not just about the mechanics, right? It's also important that you as a game development company, you think about the social aspect as well. Most developers don't want one of their new players enter the game with an anxiousness of being harassed, right, or abused. So instead, developers might hope that one of their superstar player actually welcomes the new players to the game and gives some tips and tricks of the game. So if you are a game developer, make sure that you are continuously listening to your community for the feedback, just not about the new feature, but also about what's being talked about, right? Like if there is any abuse that is happening within the community, and if there are any groups or any inconsistent conversations that is happening. There might be some loud community players, whereas there might be actual valued feedbacks which might get lost in this noise, right? So while qualitative data can be gathered by interviewing a few randomly selected players, that might not be forward in the conversation, like can give you very different perspectives from those who might actually usually encounter, right? Uh, on the other side, the quantitative data can give you like a bird's eye perspective of the entire in-game community and how people behave towards each other. Ultimately, it will be up to the developers to work with their players to help shape a great user experience. So from the moderation standpoint, Amazon Rekognition is a service that applies to machine learning to extract information from images and video, right? It was launched in 2016 and allows the developers basically to, add computer vision capabilities into their application. Very widely used for moderating across categories such as explicit nudity or suggestive category or violence, visually disturbing, drugs, alcohol, tobacco, gambling, rude gestures, and hate symbols. So these are the out of the box categories which is supported by Rekognition. Another handy managed service that comes here is like Amazon Comprehend, right, which is a NLP, a natural language processing based service that uses ML to find insights and relationship in a text, right? So very well fitment for your chat based analysis, right? So the service actually identifies the language in the text and extracts the key phrases, places, then people, brands, or events, right? Understands the positive or the negative sentiment on the text. It analyzes, actually does tokenize all these text and parts of the speech, and automatically organizes them to kind of come up with these analysis. Moving on, the next use case is around ML agents. So here I wanted to talk about Unity, right? Unity is one of the most popular game engines that has been adopted not only for video game, but also for industries such as film and automotive as well. Unity offers tools, to create virtual simulated environments for with customizable physics, landscapes, and characters. So the Unity machine learning agent toolkit, basically, this is an open source project that enables developers and to train their RL agents against the environments created by Unity. ML agent is actually beneficial for both game developers, also, and along with them, for the community also, right? Developer community as well. Um, um, so from the reinforcement learning standpoint, this is an area where that teaches the software agent how to take actions in an environment, in order to maximize the long-term objective. ML agent is actually becoming increasingly popular tool for many gaming companies for use cases such as game level difficulty design, or it could be bug fixing, right? Or it could be a cheat detection. They're also used to create NPC, right, like which can help in the advancing of the storyline within the game, or advancing the partners within the contest. Okay, next one category that I wanted to talk about is voice, right? So around voice, Amazon Translate is one of the service that can help you to provide fast, high quality, and affordable language translation, right? So within the context of India, there might be players from across different states, right, wherein you might want to have a translation between like the players talking in different languages. So this is a good fitment there. So with Amazon Translate, you can localize content such as in-game narrative, or efficiently enable the cross-lingual communication between users. It supports translation between about 70 languages, and supports customized translation training to work with the game specific language. The next one could be on the transcribe. So transcribe is typically it makes easy for developers to add speech to text capabilities, right? So it could be added to your games, or it could be added to your production pipeline, or it could be added to the application itself. When you do so, the addition of punctuation and formatting is something that is managed by transcribe itself, and it matches the quality of the manual transcription at a fraction of time, and at a fraction of the expense that you would do. And numbers also get transcribed into either digits or normal form instead of the words. You can add new words actually to the base vocabulary and generate more accurate transcriptions for game specific words or phrases like your product names, or like terminology specific to your game, right? Or as the gamers speak. The last service that here which I wanted to emphasize here is Poly. Again, this is a reverse of transcribe, right? Like it's a text to speech here. So TTS, right? So this service uses advanced deep learning technology to synthesize naturally sounding human speech, right? You get option like with dozens of lifelike voices that you can use, and you can add speech that works in many different countries, like Indian English, for example, right? So in addition to the standard TTS, Amazon Poly also offers neural text-to-speech voices that deliver advanced improvements in speech quality, like through new machine learning approach. The neural TTS technology actually also supports two speaking styles, right? One for example, like a newscaster reading style, and the other could be the conversational speaking style. So you can have these two different delivery style, supported by Poly. Okay, diving slightly deeper into monetization part. So you can better monetize your game by incorporating personalized content recommendation, right? With ML, you can find players that are, likely to do in-app purchases, or you can show personalized content to drive purchases, or you can also show relevant ads to the players to improve monetization. From the churn prediction standpoint, like we always keep wondering, what it takes to keep a user, right, from leaving the game or application after all the hard work that has been put in. If you were to know this ahead of time, that would be like, awesome, right? So finding these users can be difficult, and mainly because most of the churn happens within the first few minutes or the hours of a user's gameplay. However, with the machine learning, it makes it possible by providing insights to the developers to identify these users and engage them to decrease the churn rate. In order to improve customer retention, companies look for trends and patterns to understand which offers or services or features that can be targeted. Right? With SageMaker, you can build ML models that predict abandoners ahead of time, and you can take remedial actions there through promotional offers or similar. Over the period of time, as you use more and more data to train your model, the predictions get more accurate. And it also gives you, SageMaker also gives you capabilities to add automated workflows and pipelines, right? So that you can continuously deploy updates to your churn prediction model. You can also better monetize your game by incorporating, uh, specific personalized contents, right? So with ML, you can find players that are more likely to do in-app purchases. For example, one of the customers, Rovio, right? Known for their famous title, Angry Birds. So they do that. I will be talking about their case study shortly. Uh, Sony, we spoke about it, right? They do personalized use of personalized and SageMaker. Um, for in-game, example, it would be like an ML model that can recommend relevant game item to a player who is stuck on a certain level, right? By recommending that specific purchase of that specific item, you are actually driving the revenue, and the player also gets to move on to the next level. So yeah. Rovio is known for their Angry Bird title, right? Which has like won awards, broken records, and redefined what the casual gaming could mean for hundreds of millions of gamers. With additional game launches in Angry Birds universe, Rovio actually tries to maintain its reputation for fun, engaging, and highly entertaining games. When their last title, like Angry Bird Dream Blast, was launched, the Rovio team wanted to create a very tight, encouraging, and satisfying game that keeps players coming back for more. Right? To do this, Rovio actually uses ML to help understand the playability of the game. Before using ML, Rovio would put new levels into the game each week and let it be there for about 2 to 6 weeks of time to understand the playability. With ML, it does the predictability so well that the Rovio's players get the best of the out of the experience from the moment the levels are released. Rovio is also delivering customized games for each individual using ML models again. I would highly encourage you to go through the case study. So the QR code on my screen, you can scan that, or you can look up for Rovio case study on Google for AWS. So that will talk about their sophisticated technology stack and how they use ML to achieve this. Okay. Next one is around anomaly detection, right? So as the popularity of a video game increases, there's more opportunity for fraudulent behaviors, right? So fraud is very problematic scenario for many studios because it actually devalues your in-game currency that's brought with the real money, or it could be your real money itself within the real money games, which we have, right? RMGs, and it could make the trust to be lost within the gaming community for that game. Um, uh, Essentially, you're basically the fraud actually can drive the player away from the game itself. Uh, to add to that, video games have a unique challenge when it becomes very difficult to identify fraud, right? To give you examples, uh, the purchases that are made within games are small in amount, and then they are very frequently made, which makes it very difficult to differentiate between a valid or a fraudulent purchase, right? It's not like a retail online business. Another scenario could be the payer of the game is not always the player, right? So in case of children, usually the payment instrument is basically their parents payment instrument that they're using. um, there is also scenario of account sharing that happens with multiple people, right? Like I could be sharing my account with someone else that I want to experience that game. So it really becomes, these all scenarios add the fraud detection part of it, really making it very difficult. So you can either create custom SageMaker models, or you can use some of the other models that are available already, like the k-means clustering or supervised XGBoost, or unsupervised random cut forest on SageMaker that can help you detect if a human is playing your game inhumanly well, really well, right? So that's something that you can get it identified through these models. um, you can also use anomaly detection to predict churn as well, right? The player churn can be predicted on the basis of that. In addition to that, Amazon has again the managed service fraud detector basis their experience, which has been built over the past experience at Amazon.com, right? And this has been used by customers to augment or replace their existing rule-based fraud detection, with this fraud detect Amazon fraud detector. So now, as per the feedback that we have received from most of the customers, they report that the results of this model produced with fraud detector is much better than whatever the custom model that they have built. One of the case studies that I wanted to talk about here is about Krafton, right? So Krafton is known for their popular games like PUBG and Terra. They are a Korean-based game studio. They started to realize that more and more characters in their game, as it increases, it becomes really difficult for them to identify the fraudulent activity within the app, right? So only AI/ML is the way to go, is what they thought, and now they are doing anomaly detection using custom models on Amazon SageMaker to accomplish this. So from the statistics standpoint, this graph shows that activities about all abusive activities that happen on the Krafton's games, which until AI/ML they were doing it manual, rule-based prediction, right? Rule-based detection basically. Um, how they gathered this data was like, as I said, they manually went ahead and pulled the reports through their existing systems, analytic systems, and that's how they were able to get it earlier. But now with ML, what they have ended is, they got like 12 new types of abusive behaviors, that's something that which had not been detected through the reports, manual reports. And in addition to that, they also detected like about 250 new abuse cases that existed, but those were like never found in the manual method, right? So these were some of the revelations which come in when you start using the AI/ML models to help detect any anomalies there. Time for the next poll. So Again, 45 seconds to close. Cool. So with that, I'll hand it over to Arun to take you through the common architectures and a demo of those. Over to you, Arun.
So what we're gonna do is we saw Yogesh covering many use cases across the gaming industry, and what we're gonna do in the next section of this presentation is to look at some of these architectures, and also we're gonna look at some demos on how we can quickly build some of this using our AWS AIML stack. So before we dive deeper into building this, right, looking into the architecture and use cases, uh, just wanted to give a quick overview of AWS machine learning stack. Yogesh touched upon some of the services across different layers, but with overall offering, what we provide is it's a three-layered stack, and the vision behind building the stack is to make sure we enable machine learning for every developer. So be it a data scientist, be it a application developer, or be it a machine learning engineer. So we wanted to make sure each one has got something on the stack to start building their ML applications. So quickly on this stack, one is on the bottommost layer, we have frameworks and infrastructure. Uh, in this layer, what we provide you is a wide range of infrastructure to choose from, both in terms of CPUs and GPUs. Again, we have instances which are built for training, and we have instances which are built for deployment. Along with that, we also provide framework support. We enable most popular frameworks. And if you look at the bottom layer, you are doing a lot of heavy lifting. These are for expert practitioners who want to manage their infrastructure at the same time, build the machine learning code, and also handle ML ops on their own. Further up down the line, we have ML services where we have Amazon SageMaker. SageMaker, again, it takes infrastructure overhead from developers, right? So it gives you 20 plus services across ML lifecycle, starting from data preparation, building, training, and deployment, which enables users to kind of build their applications quickly and in a faster manner, and scale to multiple models when they start building more and more use cases. In this layer, if you see more time, we free the data scientist developers to kind of focus on building their machine learning model, which solves their business use case. If you go further up, we are doing even more abstraction. In this layer, you don't have to worry about infrastructure management nor writing your ML code. We provide you API driven services here, and most of the services can be trained on your own data as well, and they can be invoked as an API endpoint. So Yogesh covered some of this, like recognition. We spoke about Poly, Translate, Lex, Personalize, and so on. So I will cover two of the services in detail and quickly show how to build a solution using them. And we'll also look at using the mid layer where we use SageMaker for a couple of use cases as well. The first scenario we're going to look at is to do proactive player retention. So there are multiple stages where a player may get churned, right? So determining churn and taking necessary action is always an important aspect while you're trying to engage your customers to play games. And if you look at different stages where a player get involved, right? So they enter, they start playing, they practice, and then they master the game. Finally, they when they master the game, they just stay for friends or like casual guilds, right? And slowly, when the burnout happens, that's where people start to churn. So this is something, a behavior which you have historic data, you can train a model and try to predict if an user is churning, and from there you can take necessary actions. So let's see how that can be implemented. All right. Let's look at the overall architecture first, and then we will focus on how to build such models. So if you see this, you have your the mobile client that sends player events via your game analytics pipeline. So this is a sample example, right? So this pipeline could be even more complicated depending on what processing that you do. Once the data is ingested, you kind of do some transformation on the data using ETL jobs, some with something like AWS Glue to make the data available for machine learning. Once the data is on S3, your data scientist can pull the data and train models using Amazon SageMaker. So we will look at how to train one such models using SageMaker. And once the training is done, you can deploy the model and always send real traffic to determine whether there is a churn or not. So periodically, once you get more and more data collected, you can retrain the model, republish the model, and determine churn and take corresponding actions. So actions could be something predicting similar games to the user or giving him credits and so on. That's something, again, the second part will also look at how to build a recommendation model as well eventually. So let's see in action how we can build this, right? So what we're going to do for this is we will use Amazon SageMaker, right? So build the churn prediction model. We SageMaker, like I said, it gives you a lot of services to do your end-to-end machine learning. And within SageMaker, we have an IDE called SageMaker Studio. So Studio is an integrated environment which kind of gives you a Jupyter Lab kind of an environment, and it also integrates well with quite a lot of SageMaker features. So one such feature which we're going to look at during this exercise is SageMaker Autopilot. So Autopilot is our AutoML capability for tabular data sets, right? So Autopilot lets you to train predictive models. Either it could be classification or regression. So if we look at the churn prediction model, right? So if you have historic data which is collected and your jobs have run through them and tagged them as churn versus non-churn, you can bring such data into SageMaker and quickly train state-of-the-art models, right? So let's see how to do that, right? So within SageMaker, we have something called as experiments and trials, where we can launch an autopilot experiment. Let me just zoom in a bit. So starting an experiment is pretty straightforward. Uh, churn analysis, and you need to point to the data on S3, right? So it's gonna select the S3 bucket, right? So just have my data, and I have a train.csv file, which actually is a it's not specific to gaming domain, but the data set that I'm using is standard churn prediction data set, which has got multiple columns, and we are trying to predict whether the user is going to churn or not. So similarly, if you have a lot of metrics collected and data across your users churn, you can bring that in and quickly train a model using autopilot, right? So then we need to select the target column. In this case, we are trying to predict churn, and output, I'm gonna write it back to the same bucket. I just need to select the output bucket and what type of machine learning problem we are solving. If you are not sure, you can leave it as auto, or if you know whether it's a classification, regression, or multi-class classification, you can select one of those. So in this case, we are doing binary classification, right? So where churn is a binary attribute, whether it's 0 or 1. And all these things, you can also choose to deploy the model automatically, right? Once it's done, you can give a name to the endpoint, and by default, this kind of creates 250 training jobs and to find the best model for your data set. So you can reduce this for to keep it minimum. I've just kept it at 5, but a good starting point would be something at 50 or 100, so that autopilot gets enough leverage to train the model. So once we create the model, it does multiple things, right? So autopilot does pre-processing. It looks into your data, looks into your attributes, and determines what kind of feature engineering that has to be done. And also it determines what algorithms to use. So behind the scenes, it uses XGBoost, which is one of the gradient boosting state-of-the-art techniques, and also it uses a deep learning model. So both these models, algorithms, it's kind of fine-tuned with different feature engineering capabilities, and it also integrates with explainability reports and everything. So it gives you feature importance on how this model arrived at this predictions and so on. So this is going to take a bit of time, but what we can do is let's look at already executed job. Once it's done, you could go ahead and see, right? So it kind of it gives all the jobs that it has run, and it also selects the best model. If you had earlier not choose to deploy, you can deploy that. And this is not a black box, right? So it also gives you code on how autopilot arrived at building this model. So code for both data exploration and also for the feature engineering and model training. So you can take this out and you can build on top of it if you are not satisfied with the model, or you can directly deploy this model if it's good to go, right? So and this also gives you a lot of details like explainability, which feature has kind of resulted in this prediction, and also different artifacts that maintain where is the input data came from, where is output data, what algorithm that was used, and the feature engineering and all those things. The Python code pertaining to that, you will get directly, right? So if you see, there is a Python code for the feature engineering which you could directly download, and if you want to build on top of it, you could do that as well. And also talks about other categories, properties like what instance was used and how much time was spent on training and so on. So that's autopilot, and using autopilot to build your churn prediction model. So let's move ahead. So we looked at predicting churn, and also the second common use case where for player retention is recommending content to the users, right? So where we can use Amazon Personalize to build a model and use the model to recommend content. Again, the architecture will be something similar to earlier. You will have your app servers. Excuse me. You will have your app servers that is running your application, which sends regular data to your data pipeline. Again, this is a simplistic data pipeline, but it could change depending on the kind of data and the amount of processing that you do. So this endpoint captures data, does some transformation and shows, so it captures the data and stores the raw data into S3, and you run some ETL to do some transformations before you can feed that into your S3 bucket, which will be used for training. So these transformations are typically to convert the data into the format that Personalize accepts. And once you have that, you can ingest the data, create a solution, train the model, and deploy the model, right? Which you could have directly accessible from your client devices. It could be mobiles or any laptop terminals or desktop terminals as well. So let's look double click onto Personalize and then see how we can build a model using Personalize, right? So Personalize, like I said, it helps you to build state of the art deep learning models for giving recommendations. This is something we directly derived from our learnings from various other Amazon businesses like Amazon Prime or Amazon.com and so on, where we have done recommendation solutions, and the same thing we have packaged into a solution and given it to our customers to quickly build recommendation solutions on top of AWS. So this gives you real time as well as both a batch recommendation. It's pretty easy to use. We're going to look at that in the demo. It's how quickly we can set up recommendation solution and then start using it. And it's trained with multiple various data domains. It works with any product or content, right? So we have seen customers using it across industries. Either it could be an OTT platform, or even for game recommendations, or the retail product recommendations, and so on. So how does this work, right? So you can bring in your activity streams where people view your games, or they sign up, they play, they convert, and etc. And your inventory data could be your product details or video data and so on. And finally, if you have any demographic data with respect to the user, like a name, age, and location, etc. So you can bring in these data into Personalize. On Personalize, this is something like an AutoML for building your recommender systems, right? So what it does is it loads the data, inspects the data, identifies various features, selects algorithms, hyperparameters. It does hyperparameter tuning, trains your model, it optimizes your model, and then deploys your rastered model and your model. And finally, it also gives you a mechanism to take a real-time feedback and then keep updating your models as well. So building is it's like just 3 simple steps, right? So first you upload your data set into Personalize, right? So there are 2 mechanisms. One is you can bring in your historic data set as CSV files and ingest it. Once you go into production, you can ingest live data right into Personalize and constantly keep updating the system. So after you ingest the data, you create a solution to kind of train the model. And once the training is done, you look at the model metrics, and finally you go ahead and deploy it and do inferencing. So inferencing, we can do both real time as well as batch inferencing, depending on the use case. So if you want to do an email campaign, batch inferencing works well. Or if you want to give live recommendations on your app or on your uh, application web applications, you can use real-time campaigns. So let's go back and see how this is built, right? So I'll just go to Personalize. So Amazon Personalize, we can it's quickly we can start by defining a data set, and so let's so data set is something like an abstraction to hold your entire solution together, right? So what we are going to do is once within the data set group, we are going to say create a data set with the interaction data, right? So game interactions, and so already I had created a schema, right? So where you need to provide these 3 minimal information to start with. One is your user ID, unique identifier for user, item ID, unique identifier for your game or any other product, any other actions that you are trying to recommend, and a timestamp when this interaction has happened. So if you are constantly capturing users interactions with various sections of the game or different games, you can use the data to kind of train a model. So this is the bare minimum we need. And once you have that, you need to define the path where your data is present, right? So I just have this interactions data. This is how it looks like. The interaction data is a unique user identifier followed by an item identifier and the timestamp of interaction. And once you have that data, right? Sorry. I have this data on S3. Let's copy the URL. So once you have the interaction data, you could go ahead and train the model, right? So the first step, like we spoke about, it's the data upload, which we are doing. And after the data upload is complete, we can create a solution with various recipes. Let's go ahead and look at how that looks. So I already had created a solution with the same data set, right? So solutions, there are two types of things that you could actually do. One is for a given item or a given game, if you want to find similar games, there is one algorithm which you could leverage to train the models. Or for a user, based on his previous interactions, you are trying to recommend something, you can use the user personalization. And also there is a re-ranking algorithm again for a user. If you want to rank based on his previous interactions or behavior, you could do that using that as well. So creating solution, again, it's pretty straightforward. You just need to select which algorithm to use, whether you want similar items to your given item, or if you want to personalize it based on the user interactions. Once you select those, you define various parameters, right, that governs this, and then you create a solution. So creating a solution version is nothing but training a model. So the training, again, it takes some time to do this. It takes about an hour or 30 minutes to 45 minutes, depending on your data set. And say after you have trained this model, you can easily deploy this, right, by creating a campaign. Campaign is nothing but a real-time endpoint. If you want to ask a real-time endpoint to deploy this model, you can create a campaign and then select the solution which we kind of trained in the previous step, right? And then give a name to the campaign, like and this is you provision how much throughput is needed depending on the load that you are expecting. You can increase this accordingly, and the costing will be charged based off the throughput that you provision, right? So it'll be charged for this minimum, but it auto scales when there are more requests. So provide the minimum throughput, but since auto scaling is enabled by default, you should be able to add handle spiky loads as well. So, and then once you do a create campaign, it creates a campaign, and which you can start consuming, right? So you can consume this through our Python SDKs, or we provide SDKs for other popular programming languages as well. So there's an API within the SDK which you could invoke with an user ID and get recommendations. Similarly, you can invoke an item ID or a game ID and get similar game recommendations as well. So let's quickly see this, right? So you can test this within the console itself, right? And just won't provide much. So it's giving recommendations. It's trained on a large data set, so it's giving few recommendations. Let's go ahead and see just a reverse lookup. Just go ahead and see what is that particular game is, right? So it's recommending one of this Dawn of War 2. Similarly, let's take one more. Arcadia. So yeah, so this was purely this is like slightly unclean data, so the recommendations may not be super great, but if you provide there are other types of data sets, there are a lot more customizations you can do on this service, which gives you a very good recommendations once you train and deploy these models. So with that, we looked at personalization. Then the third set of solutions we gotta look at is anomaly detection, right? So anomaly is something inappropriate behavior, or it could be related to fraud, or it could be some inappropriate actions that is happening within the system that you are not expecting. So detecting these and then kind of taking necessary actions, it's of utmost importance. So let's see how again we can leverage some of the services within our AI/ML stack to build this anomaly detection problem. So there are, again, we're gonna look at two approaches here. One is a self-managed approach where you train your own models and then manage them using Amazon SageMaker. And the second approach we're gonna look at, there is again a Viava AI service, something similar to Personalize, where you can quickly build and deploy models for detecting anomaly. So let's look at this first scenario. So we typically have game action logs, which you take, and then you can either train classification models for detecting known type of frauds or known type of anomalies or abusers, or you can also train unsupervised deep learning or machine learning models as well to kind of detect new type of abusers, right? So we will see couple of SageMaker solutions, algorithms, which can let you do this in more detail. So one typical architecture to build such solution is you could leverage Amazon SageMaker, right? SageMaker provides you a couple of algorithms which could help us in this scenario. One is XGBoost, which is a supervised algorithm that kind of uses a gradient boosting technique, one of the state of the art for doing predictions. So you could leverage XGBoost to kind of train a model which can predict whether there is a fraudulent behavior or not. Similarly, if you don't have train data to train your models on, we also provide an unsupervised model. This is a machine learning technique, but it's kind of pretty efficient in detecting anomalies, right? So, which is called random cut forest. So this is one of the sample solutions that we provide within SageMaker, which you could deploy and provide your own data and then start building this model and start consuming that through a Lambda and via the API gateway for all your interactions. So finally, once the prediction is done, you can pipe it through Kinesis Firehouse and then store the data in S3 for doing further analysis using QuickSight for all your PI needs. So quick on SageMaker, we kind of covered a little bit on SageMaker, but on a just it lets you to build, collect, and prepare your data sets, right? And so what it gives you is a lot of features to do your data preparation, data labeling, all the way to training and deployment, right? So once you for training, we give you fully managed environments where you can train and tune your models, and where you can also do hyperparameter optimization. So after training, we also give you features to deploy your model both as real-time endpoint as well as a batch endpoint, which is again, you can set up a fully managed auto scaling for that. So let's quickly look at the solution that I was talking about on SageMaker. So within SageMaker and SageMaker Studio, we have something called as SageMaker Jumpstart, wherein we give predefined solutions for various industry problems, right? So let me slightly minimize this. The one that we're going to use is detect malicious users and transactions, right? So this solution, like I said, it gives you a template to kind of train such systems. The sample provided it uses a financial data set to detect transaction fraud. But again, we could extend this easily to detect any different types of fraud that occurs in a gaming domain prospect as well, right? So this solution you can quickly launch onto your account, right? And then start using that to kind of build your models. So once you launch the solution, it takes some time to launch the solution, and it gives you a notebook which you can execute to go ahead and build the model. So if you see this notebook, it uses both random cut forest and XGBoost to train the models. And we have this sample data set where we are trying to predict whether there is a fraudulent behavior present or not in this particular transactions. So the main takeaway with this solution is it gives you step-by-step instructions on how to go about building such models, both using a supervised learning technique as well as an unsupervised learning technique. And it becomes much easier for you to bring in your own data, change the data path, and then use the same algorithms to train and train your models and see how it goes. It also gives you, if you look at the unsupervised learning technique, it gives you a mechanism to train the model. At the same time, it talks about various considerations on when you deploy it and how to evaluate your deployment, right? Similarly, on supervised learning, it talks about how to build and deploy your model, right? So how to build your model, train the model, and once the training is done, again, how do you evaluate this model? What are the various constraints you need to look at, right? To make sure the model is performing well. And finally, it also talks about unbalanced or imbalanced data sets, right? Which is pretty common when you are looking at a problem like fraud detection or detecting anomalies. Your fraudulent interactions or fraudulent data points will be very minimal. That leads to data imbalance when you are trying to build a model. So it also talks about certain techniques on how can you handle such imbalances, and how do you go about training in such scenarios as well. So this is a pretty good gist of gives you a gist of and how do you do this entire modeling activity, and which you could easily leverage and follow to build any solution for your fraud detection. So that leaves us to the last demo, right? So we looked at self-managed training and development using SageMaker, but we also launched a new service this year, which is called Amazon Lookout for Metrics, which is our anomaly detection service, right? So Lookout for Metrics uses machine learning to detect anomalies in virtually any business and operational data, right? So you can feed in data from multiple sources and analyze things like purchase transactions, your something from a gaming context. You can boost your engagement or optimize your revenue by monitoring things like changes in user behavior, or with respect to new users or active users, or completion rates, in-app purchases, retention rates. So you can monitor potentially any metric and look for anomalies in them over time, right? So let's again quickly look at how this works, and and then again see a demo of how to set this up as well. So on a just you can ingest data to look out for metrics from various sources, from right all the way from your CloudWatch logs through S3, Redshift, Marketo, Salesforce. We let you ingest data from multiple sources. Since it's a generic service, we kind of provide integrations for a wide range of data sources here to start with. So once you provide that, what Lookout for Metrics does is it pulls the data. It kind of divides your data into, like, say 90-10, 80-20, and then trains a model and uses the rest of the data to check for anomalies on the anomalies, and then it kind of reports the anomalies. And once you do the initial building, it can operate on live data as well, right? So once your live data flows in, you can choose to set how frequently you want to do anomaly detection on your live data. Could be all the way from 5 minutes to 1 day, and it kind of runs it through the model. And then if there is any anomaly detected beyond a below certain threshold that you configure, it's gonna give you an alert. You can again alert it on a mobile number, or you can push it to SNS topic, or you can publish it to Slack, and so on. So this is how on a architecture level, this is how it looks, right? So you connect your multiple data sources to look out for metrics, and the detector, it's going to pull the data, it's going to train the model, right? And then on your live data, once the data is flowing, it continuously pulls the data and runs through this model. If there is an anomaly detected, it's going to configure, it's going to alert you. Right, so only if you configure alert, it alerts you. Otherwise it will be just tracked on the console, which you can view it directly from the console. So on an alert, you can either take some necessary action, or you can publish it to a topic where you can propagate it to your downstream applications. So let's see how we can quickly set this up as well. Right, so So look out for metrics. It's one of the service. The quickest way to get started is to create a detector, right? So demo detector, you can select the frequency at which it can pull data at regular intervals. So just keep it to default and create a detector. And once you create it, the next step is to ingest your data sources, right? So you can add multiple data sources with multiple detectors. So what I do is I'll just select this, fill up the important options. If you see the data sources, we provide a wide variety of this. Let's select CloudWatch to start with, right? So and we need to create a role, and you can choose what on CloudWatch you want to track, right? So let's say I want to look at logs, and probably the dimensions you can select, and probably how many requests I'm getting so that I want to monitor. And I just want to sum this up, right? So click on next, and you save your data set. Once you do that, you can activate your detector. What it does is like it constantly pulls the data from the stream. You need at least 100 transactions for the model to train. It trains a model, and then whenever there is an anomaly detected on that particular metric that you are configuring, uh, it will trigger that. So you can set up an alarm on that particular on a metric, right? To kind of trigger it when there is an anomaly, right? So just select an SNS topic, and since I have only one metric here, it's just not showing. Otherwise, if you have multiple metrics, you can add multiple metrics. It's going to show you a drop down to select which metric you want to trigger an alert on, and you can create this, right? So uh, and it's going to take some time to pull the data and work, but let's go ahead and look at one of the things that I've already created, right? So this was some data that we pulled, business data that I pulled from S3 actually, right? So where there are some anomalies that is detected on this data. So there are two metrics that we were monitoring. One is the revenue impacted versus views impacted, and it's kind of gonna give you this kind, the way this metric has changed over time, right? In the last one day, 6 hours, you can monitor that. And also if it crosses if there is an anomaly, it is also gets reported, right? So it gives a score for each of the anomaly that is detected, and you can filter out based on the score, right? And also when there is live anomalies, the system can also take feedback from the user, whether it's detected correctly or not, so that it uses that data to kind of update the models at the later point in time. So pretty useful service if you want to do unsupervised anomaly detection and without writing any machine learning code. It kind of helps you to do that. Cool. So that ends the demos that we have. Let's move to the next couple of poll questions. So you should be able to see them on your screens in a bit. Let's give it about 40-45 seconds for everyone to kind of look at it and answer them. Cool. So thanks everyone for taking time to responding for the poll. Let's move ahead. So key takeaways from the session. So we AML demands in the game industry is increasing, right? So there are a lot of use cases that people are trying to solve, which we went through throughout the session, right? And definitely the impact of machine learning and deep learning in the industry of gaming is very high. So what to start with, we looked at some of the high level AML services like recognition, translate, lex, poly, comprehend, and also uh, we looked at personalize and look out for metrics. With this, you can easily get started without any machine learning or modeling experience, right? But this might be limited to certain general use cases. In cases where you have to build your own models, like we looked at anomaly detection, right? Building your own models, or for churn prediction, we were building certain models. are certain cases where people use reinforcement learning to build their models, right? So you can rely on Amazon SageMaker, which gives you the necessary tooling, both in terms of infrastructure as well as in implementation support, to quickly and easily build your machine learning models. So how do you get started? Right. So there are we AWS can help you in multiple ways. We provide certain programs, right? So we conduct regular immersion days, workshops, trainings. So this was a subtle, gentle introduction to various use cases, but we also do certain deep dive sessions, workshops, hands-on sessions, and we also conduct certain partner-led or instructor-led trainings, which you can leverage as well. So reach out to the account team to kind of help facilitate such programs. Second thing is, if you have a use case and uh, you are not sure to go ahead, you want a POC support, you can pair your team with our ML experts to identify success criteria, and we will give you certain instructions and directions, and you can also request for credits to kind of conduct and validate your POC. Then we also have an ML Jumpstart program, right? So where if you are, we can involve an AWS certified partner and to kind of help you move your machine learning solutions to production, right? So we kind of give you funding support here, right? So to kind of move your solutions to productions on AWS. Finally, we also have our partner network where you can leverage to help you on your POC support or integration support or support to productionize your applications as well. Along with partners, we also have a professional services team who again help you to kind of implement the solutions. So let's that time for another poll question. You should be able to see them on your screen in a bit. Okay. So that pretty much brings us to the end of the content, end of the presentation. It's time for to see if there are any questions which you could answer. So Yogesh, if are there any questions we can take up which could benefit the larger audience?
Yeah, I think a couple of them were around. Just a moment, I'm trying to bring them up.
Sure.
Yeah, I think one of the question that was asked was around, is there any other avenues for, games outside that of entertainment, right? So yes, the answer is yes. It could be in the educational space where, a game of quiz format can actually improve your knowledge, and at the same time, the purpose of that is basically educational there, right? So the answer is yes to that. And I think there was one more question in terms of, how do we make the gaming experience more immersive and realistic, right? So different approaches to take here. Like you can either go for Amazon personalized, as we discussed, to kind of, give in-game recommendations to make it more intuitive and, very specific to that player, so that, you get retention of the player there. You can also do this by SageMaker custom models, as Arun walked you through. In addition to that, you can use RL for, like increasing the levels, right? Level difficulty within a game. That can also better engage rather than, the player getting not feeling any more interested in playing the games, right? So yeah. So those were pretty much it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Yogesh. Thanks, everyone. Like I said, you can reach out to us always if you want any kind of implementation supports, or if you want to discuss if your use case is something different from this as well, it's fine. You can always reach out to us to discuss the use case, and we can help you guys implement that. So with that, thank you everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Hope it was a useful session. Until next time, thanks. See you later.